The following video is a reading of a blog post I published on May 26, 2025. The original post will be linked below. Washington Post opinion columnist Jason Willick recently published a piece reminiscing upon the Trump campaign's 2020 alternate electors plan and the fallout thereof. I do not know who Mr. Willick is, nor what his political beliefs are, and I do not intend in this blog post to impugn his personal character. That being clarified, I think that his writings here wholly serve the practical function of acting as a propaganda pamphlet for the bad actors of the Trump campaign, who are trying to clean their public image after their failed conspiracy to subvert America's constitutional order. The article notes that the 1887 Electoral Count Act anticipated the possibility of states sending competing slates of electors, arguing that sending Congress a slate of electors representing the losing candidate is a political act, not a crime. Now, ignoring the question of whether the ECA was even constitutional to begin with, Willick completely fails to clarify that President Trump's alternate electors were not sent by their respective states whatsoever. The campaign created their own documents and delivered them to the respective state capitals acting of their own volition. The ECA's provision that states may send multiple sets of electors is obviously not applicable here. Willick characterizes the prosecutions of the Trump electors as being an attempt at criminalizing alternate electors, but this is thoroughly incongruent with the reality of what these prosecutions actually entail. As former Attorney General Barr has stated, there's nothing inherently wrong with naming an alternative slate of electors. Nobody is disputing that. The Trump electors were not simply presenting themselves as an alternative slate, however. They explicitly declared themselves in the documents they carried to be the duly elected and qualified electors of their respective states. This dishonesty could be furthermore blatantly seen when the Trump-Pence electors tried to enter the Michigan state capitol, with a Thomas More Society lawyer tagging along. The lawyer, Ian Norton, told the police officers blocking the entrance that the GOP electors are also on the governor's certificate of ascertainment, implying that they themselves had been certified by Governor Whitmer. They had not. The lies contained within these imitations of electoral votes are precisely why these individuals are being prosecuted. For example, see the indictment of Trump's electors in the state of Georgia, which cites these documents as a violation of Title 16, Chapter 10, Section 20 of the Georgia Code, false statements and writings. This flagrant law-breaking by the Trump campaign is downplayed by Willick, who comments that no one confused them for the electors certified by state officials. Regardless of whether or not this statement is true, the implication is ridiculous either way. That other people can recognize somebody as having committed a crime does not somehow negate that he has indeed committed it. If I decided to print counterfeit money in the middle of the town square, does everybody saying that my documents are forgeries somehow give me criminal immunity? This question does not need any further examination. At no point throughout the article does Willick provide an answer to the most obvious question about these elector shenanigans. For what reason did the Trump campaign organize and submit these alternative electoral votes? The truth is that they intended that Vice President Pence, who holds a dual role as President of the Senate under Article 1 of the US Constitution, would assert that he holds a sole unilateral power over their electoral vote count deliberations, which he doesn't. Citing the presence of the two sets of competing electoral votes, the Biden electors and the Trump campaign's alternative electors, within the 7 states wherein alternative votes were submitted, Pence would outright reject the electors of those 7 different states as not being validly appointed. With several electors gone, the winning electoral college majority needed would now be only 228 electoral votes, a number low enough such that President Trump would now meet the requirements to secure a majority of the votes in the electoral college, and thereby another 4-year term in office. That is to say that the Trump campaign had designed and had begun to implement a quasi-procedural self-coup d'etat. I do not claim that every single thing that has happened surrounding these events exists on a black and white spectrum of morality. Some of the alternate electors, such as Andrew Hitt, have claimed that they were duped into participating in the scheme without being provided the full context by the Trump campaign. Willick's article itself was prompted by the recent revelation that the prosecutors of the 2020 Arizona fake electors had failed to provide the grand jury with the relevant provisions of the ECA during the proceedings. These nuances, however, are perfectly able to be discussed without having to degenerate your writings into something to be regurgitated by the Trump adulators dwelling inside the bowels of Twitter.